Welcome to the EdTech Throwdown. Join us, Eric Guise and Nick Johnson, as we dive into today's best EdTech tools, tips, and practices. We do the research so you can teach your class. Remember to follow us on social media like Instagram, X, or Facebook by looking for the handle @EdTech Throwdown. Now please enjoy the show.
Welcome to the EdTech Throwdown. This is episode 196 called Classroom Activities for the Beginning of School. In this episode, we will share 8 new and improved ideas for starting off the school year in the most fun, positive, and student-centered way possible. This is another episode you don't want to miss. Check it out.
All right, back with episode 196. At this time, we are probably swinging into August, maybe mid-August, somewhere in there. And we are getting ready to start thinking about going back to school. And every year when we do this, the first thing that comes up to us is, how are we going to get everyone comfortable with one another? How are we going to get to know these kids? How are the kids going to get to know each other? So today's episode is all about the how.
Yep, I'm very excited because I always start my school year pretty much the same way, and I don't love it. I do it because it's what I do. I've got all the plans laid out. I know what to say. I know how it goes. I know what I need to prep and what I don't need to prep. However, it goes well. You know what I mean? The kids like it. It's a good experience for all, which is the only thing that keeps me coming back to that. However, these 8 ideas are certainly way more fun and way more engaging. So I don't know. Maybe this is the year that I finally switch over to something a little more student-centered. The one I do now is pretty much me going around the room and like the kids have to share like a fact with me, and it's funny. Like I make it funny, and I'm cracking jokes and kind of making fun of their responses. But it's very all eyes on me, and I don't really need that or want that at this point. So I think it would be more fun to switch over to something like this. Have you ever tried any of these yourself or done something like one of these before?
Not for the back to school activity to get to know kids. I have used different variations of these in my classrooms, but I don't want to give too many of them away right now, so we're just going to hold off there. And before we get into our main segment here of 8 different activities that you could do to start off the school year, we're going to take a listen to our partners over at the Teach Better Podcast Network.
This podcast is a proud member of the Teach Better Podcast Network. Better today, better tomorrow, and the podcast to get you there. You can find out more at teachbetter.com/podcasts. Now let's get back to the episode.
All right, so we're back into segment 2. We're going to very quickly go over 8 different activities to kind of get us back into the swing of things at the beginning of the school year. We say quick, we know it's a summer episode, and we know that people want to do other things. So we're shooting to keep this one under 25 minutes, I would say. I think start to finish, I think we could do it. And I'm going to just hop right into the first one, and this is probably my favorite. And I call this a team challenge, but really there's 4 phases of this team challenge: design, build, retrieve, and complete. And I'll explain this to you real quick. I love Survivor. I love A Minute to Win It. I love all those different types of game shows. Fear Factor back in the day, but that's probably dating me a little bit. But what I'm trying to say here is game elements. I really love game elements. And so what I plan on doing is giving my students, I'm teaching AP Bio. We're teaching a podcast course and a digital creative design course next year. So that's what I have on my plate for next year, along with my media center and tech coach duties. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give them a challenge problem. Basically, they're going to be stuck on an island. They can't go into this water because of some reason. I'll make it up later. I'm going to come up with this narrative. And there are bags that are floating out in the ocean. Okay, these bags can be retrieved, but all that they have is bamboo shoots and twine. So they're going to have to use bamboo shoots and twine to somehow get these bags that have a bunch of stuff that's going to help them get off the island. All right, so the whole idea is that they have to come up with some type of a design based on the 10 to 12 bamboo shoots that they have in twine that they have on their island to retrieve the bags. So they're going to design whatever it is that they're going to use to retrieve the bags. They're going to build it. Finally, they'll retrieve the bags, and then inside the bags is going to have their challenge. And inside the challenge or the bag will be a QR code to some type of introductory poster. I'm thinking almost like one of those webs. What is it called? Dreamcatcher, right?
Yeah, the things you hang, they're like knitted with twine and stuff.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So it's going to be a digital copy of that, and it's going to have a spot where they could put a picture of themselves on there, and then each web is going to be like a hobby or something that they did over the summer or something that describes the best way that they learn or why they took AP Bio, whatever it may be. And they'll have the rest of the period to design that and then turn in that slide to me, which I will use to project on the projector either at the end of the period if we have time or maybe as the do now for the next day.
I love this because of the physical aspect. Getting kids to actually play with the sticks and the twine and build something is super cool, and it's going to be different for them than what's typical of those first day activities, kind of sitting there and maybe coloring and doing some different creative things, but a lot of that is just sitting and using your hands to write or type. So they're actually getting up and trying to do something, which is always going to be fun and engaging. And it actually kind of reminds me of what was last on our list. So I'm going to start skipping around a little bit and say another idea for what you could do is a survival scenario. And I just thought of it because it was like you said, where they're trying to get off at this island with these tools. So this would be like the non-physical version of that. The way this usually works, this is a common team building activity where there's, some scenario, like you just said, lost in the desert, on an island, whatever. Like you choose the scenario to fit however this is going to work best for you. But the point is there's a big giant list of items that you have access to. And you have to choose the ones that will maximize your chance of survival and then justify those choices. There is a chemistry version of this that's out there. That's the one I know as a chemistry teacher, where there's 32 items, and you got to pick the top 10 I think this is for desert survival. And there are a correct 10, but the point of it is there's so many directions you could take it that it really is an easy way to get kids talking and arguing, but in a fun way, and just thinking and getting to know each other. If you're saying, okay, that's great for the chemistry teachers, but what about me? I teach history or I teach third graders. The reason I'm sharing it now, again, is you could go to any AI platform like ChatGPT and ask it to build out one of these things for you. You know what I mean? Like you say, you want it to be jungle themed, you need a list of 30 survival items and 10 of them are, the 10 correct items, or if 10's too many, if you want it to be a smaller set. The point is with AI, you can design it, from scratch basically to meet your exact need. And the way I do this in classes, the students kind of have to list out their 10 items and then I briefly explain what they would use them for. Maybe as a first day activity, keep it short, maybe not 10 items, maybe 5. And then each group gets up and shares out what they think those 5 items are. Ideally, this gets people, when we go over the correct 10 in class, the kids get pretty agitated because they think some of the 10, air quotes, correct ones are ridiculous and they totally disagree for this reason. And that's the kind of thing you're going for as a first day activity, is to really get people comfortable sharing out in this new environment to set the stage properly for the rest of the year. It's just always been a hard activity to share with people because it would be so difficult to develop this from scratch. But of course, with AI, you do not have to. So think about a survival scenario for the beginning of your school year, perhaps.
Yeah, I love that one. The gamified aspect of it. Really, there's no right or wrong answers. It's kind of
for sure.
you can make it as ridiculous as you want. That arguing back and forth is the fun part of it. It also gives you a great opportunity as a teacher to get to know your kids and understand how they tick, how they argue, those types of things. All right, let's get into my next one. I call it the class relay. What I used to do is I had a whole bunch of dowel rods, wooden dowel rods, and bamboo chutes and things like that were about 3 feet tall, about 1/4 inch in diameter. And I had a whole bunch of rags that were brand new that were donated to me, and I needed some way to do like this class relay. So what I did is I made, I think it was 30 different poles out of them, and I took the rags and I stapled them around the pole, or stapled them to the pole. And on the rag, I stapled index cards to them. It was a question, and then there was an answer, A or B. That's it, just 2 choices, A or B. One person at a time would go out, find their color flag. So I had 2 different color flags. They would go out, find their color flag, find question 1. They had to go around and find question 1. All right, they were not allowed to yell back at their team. But when they got over the line, they could talk with their team, say, hey, this is, I think 2's in the back left, I think 3 is over there, whatever it is. Later on, they all get confused, and it's hilarious because, the person's going out and getting worked up because it's not where the person said it was. But anyway, on the flags, we have questions, 2 answers. They pull off one of the answers, and that is their answer, and they turn it into me. As they're turning it into me, I mark it right or wrong. And if it's wrong, at the end, I tell them how many they got wrong. And I would pull the wrong answer cards out. So then they had to take a stapler out, staple on the incorrect answer, grab the correct answer, bring it back. The first team that was done won. All right. What I would do to use this in a way that is going to be, if I wanted them to get to know me, maybe it's 10 things about Mr. Guise. Or say at the end, whoever comes in first, the second stage of this is they need to complete this worksheet as a group. How many professional sporting events have you gone to over the summer collectively? And they would have to put their names on the line if they went to a baseball one or whatever it may be. And you could do an activity like that. But really, this relay, once again, is to get them to work together, you could also use it as a overview of your syllabus. So which one of these 2, and have pictures of 2 different biology books, is the one that we're using this year. Unit 1 will cover which of the following topics. And there's an index card that has 4 topics there and 4 different ones on the other one. One of them is correct. You could do it that way as well. But I think doing a class relay is a great way to kick off the school year.
I say you bring that back, because I remember helping you with this years back, and it was very entertaining to watch the kids try to run around from flag to flag, getting frustrated as they can't find the correct one.
I loved it because we always put number 1 right next to where they started, and for some reason, they never checked the first one.
All right. Okay, so my next one is called the silent lineup, which is another classic team building activity, but this is silent lineup extreme, where you build in additional challenges beyond the typical challenge of what this is on its face. All right, so if you've never done a silent lineup before, just like the normal kind, it's where you give the group that you're speaking to some kind of a task, usually arranging themselves in order, like birth date or alphabetical order, but the challenge is that they can't speak, hence silent lineup. I call it silent lineup extreme because you're going to build in even more challenges beyond the challenge of not being able to speak. When I thought of this, my first idea was, what if, on top of not speaking, what if half of the kids in the class were blindfolded? So not only can they not talk, they can't see. So then those kids have to rely on other people in some way, communicating with them, guiding them, doing something. I also think that could be very funny to watch. And also just imagine, what that humor would allow in terms of the team building and getting kids comfortable in the room. Another idea that I had to make it even more extreme is to shorten the time limit. So I probably wouldn't do both of those because it would be too hard and dangerous as well if kids are blindfolded, but then they're also trying to go really fast. But like give them, I've never done this before, so I don't know how long it would take for 24 high school kids to line up in order of birthday silently. But like whatever, I'll just try 60 seconds and see how good they can do. Of course, the time limit is going to make it harder and funnier and hopefully more fun. And I think it will because kids would know that it doesn't really matter. They're just trying to do something silly on day one. And if you want to get really fancy, you could tie in some element of your content. Like, I don't know if I can bring chemical elements into this in some way. Maybe, I'm picturing having kids put an element sticker or a piece of paper with an element on their back, and they don't know like what it is, but they have to arrange themselves in the order of like atomic masses, right? So hydrogen, helium, lithium, and the list goes on, but they can't see what's on their back, and they also can't talk with other people, and they got to figure out what to do. So silent lineup extreme, maybe a fun twist on the classic team building game.
Yeah, I like that one as well. It definitely can be done even as early as the grade school levels, like the elementary levels. My next one is a QR scavenger hunt, and I'm going to make it solely based on getting to know the classroom, getting to know me as the teacher, getting to know their other peers. So they would go find a QR code. And you can really do this, like I've seen QR code bingo. Have a bingo board. And they go find a QR code. It might say November birthday. And then they have to go around and they have to talk to people. And what they do is they find someone with November birthday. They would write it in the square on their bingo card that says November birthday. Nick, even though Nick's is October, September.
Pretty good, yeah.
Mine's November, so I could put mine there. So.
Right.
But we could throw that in there. And, one might be a piece of lab equipment used to heat up liquids. And they can go around and find that and figure out the name to it and put that in their bingo board as well. So a mixture between a bingo board and a QR scavenger hunt there.
I really like the idea of this is what I always used to do in high school. I mean, when I was in high school, every teacher had you make these, like the name cards. And I still see some teachers that are doing that as an activity. It's good. It's fun. It's everybody likes that. But I really want to make like a tech version of that where you tie in avatars and then some like digital signature type cartoon that kids can use throughout the year almost. And, we've talked about this before where the students make like their own logo that then they can use on their stuff throughout the year. I don't think I want to get that fancy on day one. Try and keep it a little bit more light. However, Canva has some pretty exciting and fun, and the best part, easy avatar designers where there's like these, blank faces basically where you can pull in different features and make your little avatar figure. The real cool part I think about this is we found over this past year a website called Animated Drawings. The URL is sketch.metademolab.com. If you just Google, though, animated drawings, it'll pop up where you can upload an image, like a PNG file of a cartoon, really any figure, and it animates it. It makes it move in like some prefab animations like skipping or running or jumping, just basic stuff. But it's very funny. So I think not only do you get the kids making an avatar, which they've probably done before, but now they get to animate it and they've got this, this cool little GIF of their avatar doing something funny. There's a way you could display all those, like maybe have all the kids upload them to like a shared Canva whiteboard space or something so that we can all see each other's little animated GIFs. I think that would be a cool way to digitize that name card and just bring it into the modern century and get the kids doing something a little bit fun, a little bit different, while still having everybody get to know each other and introduce themselves to the classroom and to you as the teacher.
Yeah, that's an awesome one. I really like the sketch.metademolab.com. We went over that, or you went over that during one of our presentations, I think.
Yeah, that was this year's NJECC, one of those things, which, by the way, if you want to go back to somewhere in the 180s or 170s, as far as EdTech Throwdown episodes, we recorded both of those sessions. On one of the two, you'll hear me get into sketch.
I think it's in the 80s, but
yeah.
My next one is Minute to Win It puzzles. So once again, we're going to give them 4 little puzzles or 4 little things that they have to do. You might just take solo cups that are different colors, and they have to take one off of the top and put it on the bottom. And they have to keep going until they go through all 20 of the cups, and then they pass it to the next person. So if you could do all of you in under a certain amount of seconds, you move on to your next challenge. And as you complete a challenge, you get a hint, all right, as to something that you have to solve at the end. So if you have all 4 of the puzzles completed, then they have 4 pieces of that puzzle that they can solve. And then, once they have those 4 pieces, they should be able to solve it or complete a task very quickly. And once again, sometimes it's about seeing how they work well together. You could get a lot from it. Like what groups you could put kids in, maybe groups that don't work. There are maybe groups that you need to focus on strengthening throughout the year. Sometimes that's a great way of doing it. And a lot of times when you have some type of pressure situation, but in a safe, fun way, you can get a lot from that. Like, I'm just thinking about how I divide the kids up into their lab groups next year.
Yeah, I mean, that's the key, right? Is a pressure situation and everything good that comes from that, but in like a fun way where there is no actual pressure for like getting the best grade possible and all the stuff that goes along with that, because it's just this silly little beginning of the year puzzle. I thought you were going to go down the road of the minute video challenge. I don't know why, because the word puzzle is right in the show notes there, but we can throw that in as like maybe a 9th bonus idea where kids have like literally 60 seconds or some crazy tiny amount of time to produce like a little video that they then share with the class. And that can accomplish that same thing, right? It's this crazy high amount of pressure because you get really cool stuff that comes out of that. A lot of the boundaries or blocks that kids will typically have when you give them a lot of time to do a thing, they go away because they just don't have the time. So they just kind of plow through it. So of course the quality may not be there, but there's lots of really other cool things that come out of it. And I like that idea as well to sort of go along with that, as well as our very, very last one, which is escape the rooms. Is there any more to say than that, right? I mean, you're the escape the room guy. Did you have a particular twist on this as like a start of the school year?
No, I mean, I like escape rooms just to be like introduction activities. So if you want it to be an introduction to your whole course, I think you could do that in a way that they don't need to know a whole lot of content, but maybe some surface level stuff. So I think there's an easy way for you to do that. And I think they're very effective. And then I also think that they would like doing it. And it shows a lot about you as a teacher coming out of the gate with something that they know takes time, and they'll appreciate that. So
I know one of our colleagues here, Dana Heller, she's been on the show before. She just put together, she's like totally switching from a high school teacher to a middle school teacher, going from history to teaching tech. So she put together an escape the room using Canva code as like, so the Canva code built the website where kids input their answers to these questions. But like you said, it's all about her, right? It's questions about your teacher, and the benefit of using Canva code is as the kids input different ideas, they get like different color changes and explosions and feedback and all stuff that, you could tailor based on the prompts that you put in there. But, these are hopefully some great ideas. Obviously, you're not going to do all of them. You want to pick like one of them that jumps out to you and hopefully doesn't seem too overwhelming or too challenging for you to set up. That's going to wrap it up for this episode 196. As always, thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening to the EdTech Throwdown. Do us a couple of favors. Subscribe to our podcast on any major podcast catcher such as Apple, Spotify, Amazon Podcasts, and Stitcher. Go over to YouTube, search the EdTech Throwdown, subscribe to the channel. You can connect with us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. The show's handle is EdTech Throwdown. You can connect with Guise at GuiseGotTech, Nick at NickGotTech. You can write us an Apple Podcast review. You can tell your friends about www.edtechthrowdown.com. And lastly, go over and check out our friends over at the Teach Better Podcast Network, a network that we are so proudly involved with. Until next time, remember, go try some EdTech because we will do the research so you can teach your class.